So, have you ever wondered exactly how you might go about getting arrested in Japan? Walk with me. I'll tell you a little how to guide on exactly how to do this. So, just to put you in the frame, tell you exactly what was going on, rewind about a year and a half ago. I was about 1,500 kilometers into my trip across Japan, and I found myself in the Ishikawa Prefecture. So this is kind of in the middle of Japan, kind of north of Kyoto, on the west coast of Japan. So um, was bikepacking across Japan and was honestly some of my favorite scenery of the entire ride. But I started the morning, a nice ride by the seaside, and honestly, it was a bit stressful. Um, I um, was about, let's say, yeah, maybe 30 kilometers into the ride for the day and had just been through a mountain pass area and, found myself riding along the shoulder on a beautiful coastline, had just gotten through some kind of hectic points where I was, kind of dodging tractor trailers and finally found myself on the first nice bit of road. The sun came out, kind of, felt like the cycling gods were smiling on me a little bit. So I took a bit of a break. And as you can imagine, after, 1,500 kilometers of cycling and also being a person that is just a natural scavenger, my eyes are always on the ground. I'm on the shoulder of the road. So naturally, I'm going to find things. So I noticed this white rectangular shape thing on the side of the road and realized what I was looking at was a Japanese number plate. And for those of you that may not know me, I do have a little bit of a built-in redneck. I love motorcycles. I love working. I love working on, uh, you know, cars and trucks, and especially motorcycles, especially Harley Davidsons. So I noticed that was a number plate, a motorcycle number plate, and that really got me excited. So, mind you, in the US, if you found something like this, a lost plate is kind of considered trash. You report it to the DMV. The number plate is kind of null and void and can kind of be like, thought of as a souvenir. As a kid, my brother and I found this hilarious number plate. I'll put a picture of it here that said Cletus. We found it in a ditch, and it's always been something that we've kept in the family. So I had this idea. This is super cool. This is a number plate, and it's a motorcycle number plate. I can actually take this and maybe put it in my little man cave, put it on my motorcycle. Who knows what we can do? So me thinking with my American mind, this is going to be a really cool souvenir. So without further ado, I took the license plate that I put a picture of right here, and I put it on the back rack of my bike, taking no mind to, maybe I should try to hide this, disguise it, because I didn't think in my head, I'm doing anything wrong. So I cycle a bit more throughout the day and then camped that night. The next morning, I stopped at a rest area about 30, 40 kilometers into my ride. Hey, you. Thank you for still watching at this point. If you don't mind and you like what you see, even somewhat, hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be uploading weekly uploads from here on out, and I'm just getting started with the journey. So if you want to follow along, hit that subscribe button. I would really, really appreciate it. Stop and had some snacks, was getting some energy for the rest of the day, was going to do about 100 kilometers. And so I noticed that there was somebody outside of the rest area kind of taking a moment to look at my bike. And so I was confused. I was like, why is this guy kind of investigating my bike? And so I didn't really pay any mind to it. I thought that maybe he's like, oh, this is a cool bike. I'm going to send the picture to my friends. And lo and behold, what I'm realizing, and then you'll realize here in about 30 seconds, is that he may have just well been calling the police. So about, 5 minutes later, I see Deputy Dog in his constable hat coming around the corner, mumbling, fumbling, kind of looking around, trying to figure out where was this, one foreigner on the bicycle. So, sitting at that bench, having his snack, he found me. Came up to me, started speaking Japanese, and I was like, "Sumimasen, watashi chotto nihongo," like telling this guy, like, I don't speak much Japanese. So, anyway, trying to navigate, and he quickly tells me, he made out the words number plate. So I said, okay, maybe this has something to do with the number plate that is attached to the rack of my bike. And at that point, we were about maybe a couple minutes into the conversation, and I see two more police officers show up. These are fully uniformed Ishikawa Prefectural police officers. So they start trying to ask me questions. There's one guy that's kind of high energy, kind of impatient, bad cop. There's one young guy that was like, oh, this is really cool. There's a foreigner that wanted to be like super nice and ask me about the bike. And I was just confused. I didn't know if I was in big trouble, if there was just some sort of misunderstanding. I didn't know. So there was a definite language barrier at that point, and I was just really confused. Some trouble with the police. I'm not really understanding what they're trying to say. And so at that point, more police show up. Some detectives show up. And mind you, at this point, there's about 6 or 7 of Ishikawa Prefecture's finest at this rest area, surrounding me and my bike, taking the serial numbers off of my bike, taking pictures of my bike. And of course, I was open to them doing everything. I, at this point, didn't think I had done anything wrong. So I told them, yeah, I found the license plate. I found it on the edge of the road. I showed them, like, there's some scratches on the corner. Found this. I thought it was trash. I thought it was something I could take. And they quickly let me know that, no, this is a big offense in Japan. So that was the point where the tables kind of turned. So at that point, they told me, I tried to explain, I pleaded with them, like, look, I've never been arrested. I've never had any trouble with the police. I'm here doing, a bicycling tour, trying to have the best experience as I can in Japan. And so at that point, through all of my pleading, it wasn't going to be a situation that they said, sir, sorry about the misunderstanding. We're going to send you on your way. So at that point, they told me that it was imperative that they get an official statement from me and fully investigate the situation, that I wasn't going to be riding on that day. So they took me around the corner, put me in a big van, and we headed about 30 minutes to the prefectural police department. When we got there, they set me down in the classic interrogation room, with the one-way glass and the square table in the middle with the light, the ashtray, the classic scene from a movie. And the one guy tried to start speaking to me in Japanese. And so I was like, told him in my limited Japanese, sorry, my Japanese is very good. I would rather do this in English. And so they said, okay. So they needed to call in their one translator. So this took about an hour. So waited there for the translator to get there. Finally, the translator got there, and he was trying to explain to me the things that we needed to do. So one was basically I needed to sign a statement. So what they wanted from me was a statement about, what had happened, and that I was, not claiming any fault, and that I wanted to turn over the property. So that all seemed pretty straightforward. And then walks in the lead investigator. So I think that his role, everybody up to this point had been really nice. But this guy, he walks in, he's got a very stern look on his face. His arms are crossed. He's not sitting down at the table. And he starts, asking me questions. The translator starts, translating them to me. And they all seem like they're tilting towards kind of accusational type things, right? Why were you here? What are you doing here? Why are you in possession of this license plate? And, I told them the story and stuck with my story the whole time. So anyway, I think I took the attitude of being as friendly as possible throughout the whole thing and being as respectful as possible. So I know that these are very important things in Japan. So after about an hour talking, via translator, we landed on the conclusion that they wanted to give me to give this as statement, and that once I was able to do that, officially a written statement, that they would be able to kind of come to a conclusion of whether or not they were going to press charges. So I'm set around for what seemed to be the longest hour of my life. They would not let me translate the documents in to English. They would not let me have access to an outside party to help give me any sort of advice. So at this point, I really wanted to speak to some sort of attorney. I was like, shit. Whoa, 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 whoa. Sorry for the interruption. But if you want to see around 2 hours of myself and Connor from Small Brain American talking about my trip through Japan, all kinds of crazy shit from my time living in Vietnam, click the card right here. I'm going to link that video there, and you can check out me talking to one of my favorite creators. Here I am in the middle of this trip. I am about to go to jail. I'm about to have some sort of hefty fine. Like, I felt like my life it felt like it was like at this big inflection point of like, this is where things went south. Um, so after about, another hour of waiting, they had set me in a room alone, moved me to another room. And after about an hour of waiting, the lead investigator came in. And basically, what he told me was, look, we feel like you did not take this license plate with bad intentions. We felt like this was just a misunderstanding that, you're used to, in your country, if you would have found this, it would not have been a big deal, but it is just a very different process and a very different legal system in Japan. What he did tell me is he said, you know what? We really appreciate you being kind, polite, and respectful to us in the process because, under the grounds of what we see in this case and situation, we could actually charge you with embezzlement of personal property, which has a a very serious fine as well as possible imprisonment with it. So he said, because I was so cooperative and respectful that they decided not to pursue any sort of charges. So, kind of the most shocking element of this was what happened after. So I had a bit of a relief. I wrote the statement. I, submitted the paperwork that I needed to. And what happened last really highlighted kind of the beauty of Japanese people and the way that they operate. Because I imagine if this would have happened in the U.S., they would have taken me, they would have taken my bike and said, get out of the police station, go on your way. But what they did after was what really shocked me. They put me back in the van and they took me back to where they picked me up 30 kilometers away. And on the ride there, the lead investigator that had been, kind of conveying the verdict, if you will, and been the main one talking with me, he told me, I'm sorry if this was scary for you. You seem like a really nice guy. And then he ended up showing me pictures of his family. He was asking me pictures about the bike trip. So I think I learned a valuable lesson is that, you know, being kind, being polite, and giving people the benefit of the doubt in situations like this can really go to help you. I'm sure that there are instances where maybe if you are locked up abroad that, you should consult legal counsel and that sort of thing. But that is the story about how I got arrested in Japan. And I hope if you're visiting Japan, just keep in mind that, or anywhere else in the world for that matter, is just keeping in mind the simple fact that, the laws of your home country don't apply there. You are in a different world, you're in a different system, and you need to play by their rules. So I hope that this is a, maybe a valuable, story for anybody that is making the trip to Japan. But yeah, thank you for listening. And if you made it this far, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down there. I'm, really looking forward to putting out more videos about, adventures, about, reflections from my life abroad and my travels. And yeah, it'd be really nice for you to come along in the process. And also, if you want to see a little bit more about this trip in Japan, watch this video here. But anyway, see you later.